Hey, everybody, welcome to this Wemby mock. How do I know? Well, I gave myself the first pick, so I can guarantee it that it's a Wemby mock. We haven't done one of these yet, at least not me personally. I think we had a joint mock draft, myself and Adam King, and he had Wemby. But now I've got Wemby. I'm on my own for this one. And basically, the goal here is to build a team that exploits Victor Wembanyama's incredible strengths, which I think this season we can all agree is likely to be. And again, some of this is just kind of looking at like the last 2 months of last year. He's going to be decent in scoring, great in rebounding, good at threes for a big man, good at assists for a big man, incredible at defensive stats, abysmal at turnovers, bad at field goal percent for a big man, and then free throws, we'll find out if they come in just a hair below preferred or something like that. Now, I'm not going to advocate doing a multi-punt. So, yeah, I mean, you could go turnovers. But you got guys like Trae Young, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic. These guys are all going to be in the same general area. So you're not locked in on that by any stretch. In my eyes, if you're going to go Wemby and you're going to punt something, field goal percent is probably the way, because he's a big man going early who's a negative in field goal percent, even with a little bit of an uptick. And he's basically the only one of those. The mock is starting right now, and I'm going to take Wemby to start things off. But then what I want us to look at and think about as the draft board starts to fill up a little bit, and I'll do some zooming with my YouTube screen to show you how the picks are coming off the board. I want us to be thinking about who makes sense at the end of the second round, beginning of the third. If, let's say, we are punting field goal percent, what are the things that my team is going to be weak at because I took Wemby in the first round? And if I'm ultimately going to be punting field goal, if that's the path we take, what is the hardest thing to lock down? That's big man stats. So more rebounds, things of that nature. My blocks are already in pretty good shape. Big man stats that are reboundy, and I would argue free throwy, because it's going to be pretty easy to pick up scoring if we're punting field goal, and it's going to be relatively easy to get steals and free throw percent if we're punting field goal. But what's hard to get in that build, and what often gets forgotten, is the other stuff. You got to win something else. So if we plan on winning threes and scoring and assists and steals and free throw percent, that's 5. And Wemby gets us a lot of the way to 6, which is blocks. The things you got to make sure you're getting in there, you can shore up rebounds, or you can make sure you get the guard stuff. Now, because Wembanyama is so good at shot blocking, it makes it a little bit simpler here than a field goal punt starting with a guard, because he's taken care of rebounds in a big way and blocks in a big way. But let's go back to the actual draft board for a moment. And while we're doing that, I want to remind everybody, hi, hello, I'm Dan Vespris. You are watching Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. And you can find me on Twitter at Dan Vespris. At Old Man Squad is the other link you want to follow. Please hit that 5-star. Please rate and review. It actually means quite a lot to me that you guys would consider doing that. And please subscribe. Like, rate, subscribe, follow on social. As we inch towards the end of the second round, the guys that make the most sense here in a Wemby build are LaMelo Ball, if you have the stones. So we'll put him in the queue. Dame actually makes a lot of sense. I think he just got drafted. Yeah, Dame just got drafted, so that's not going to work. Jalen Brunson just got pulled. Paul George isn't the worst idea here, because you get the steals and free throw percent, but not much in the way of assists, which, again, like, some of this stuff is going to come later. Or do we lean into the same build, and then Chet Holmgren just got drafted? So it's coming around to us again. If, all things equal right now, Devin Booker would be the choice. But if you're punting field goal, he doesn't perhaps make quite as much sense there. De'Aaron Fox is weak at free throw, so not somebody I really would want to target. So Booker, Paul George, LeBron just got drafted. So I have a choice here between Booker and PG. I don't think that anybody else would really be a guy. Okay, so I guess I have 2 of them. Neither one of them is what you'd call like a traditional assist dude. You could also look at a Cade Cunningham. It's hard for me to turn down Booker. It's hard for me to turn down Paul George. Let's go with PG for one of them, because that's going to get us the steals, and I think there'll be plenty of scoring and plenty of threes. And then the other one is sort of this toss-up between Booker and someone like Cade, who's going to get more assists, but I think Booker will probably score more. And just honestly, Booker's going to be a pretty good fit. Or do we want to go with the big man, like a Cat, who's going to score and knock out that stuff, and we don't have to worry about it later? I'm probably not going to go that early on Cat, so I'm going to throw Booker in the queue. He's not the perfect fit here, but he does a lot of really good stuff, basically. It's just way too early to go on Cat, because one of his advantages is the field goal percent thing. I'm going to count on the fact that we can get somebody relatively decent at the end of the fourth, beginning of the fifth. So what I got there was a nice boost in scoring and guard stats. Maybe not the massive assist pull that I would want. Kind of well-rounded players. And again, for Booker, maybe a little bit of a waste on the field goal percent side. So, okay, whatever. Like, maybe Cade Cunningham made more sense there than Devin Booker in that particular build, but it is what it is. I think we can do it without it. But like, going back to last year, take the last 2 months when Cade was better. Punting field goal, Cade was number 35 down the stretch last season, and Devin Booker was still number 22, despite him having the field goal percent advantage, because Booker just scored more. He assisted almost the same. Booker's free throws were better. So I'm fine with it. And turnovers were better as well. I don't think that I have to punt both of those things. Let me give you guys the draft board again. You can zoom in on that if you want to see a little bit better. All right, so PG, obviously, excellent in a punt field goal mold, although he was a very good shooter down the stretch last year, but that's something that for him has generally been a little bit of a downtick. I mean, the weird thing that I've done is I've gone relatively well-rounded. So, rebounds are still fine, and blocks are still very good because Wemby's so crazy on that one. Steals are solid. Scoring is solid. Threes are solid. PG's going to hit a bunch of those. Booker's going to be fine. I'm not going to blow everybody away. But now it's time to think about, okay, if I'm going to be going guards in basically from round 6 until the end of the draft, I got to make sure I get another center that fits this particular build. So what does that mean? Well, do you go with a Miles Turner? I don't know, because he'll be a better free throw shooter, and he gives you the rest of the blocks you'd need, but he's not a great rebounder. Is that problematic? He doesn't pass all that well either. Jalen Duren is a big rebounder who doesn't really block much in the way of shots, but isn't a bad percentages guy. Or do we continue to kind of look down the board and assume that we're going to be able to get someone like a DeAndre Ayton who scores and rebounds but doesn't block a ton of shots? There's kind of a lot of ways to look at it. Or do we go with the lean into the strengths model, which is, make sure that if we're in a punt field goal, you make sure you win the stuff that you should be good at. I lean away from that one because I think a team like a Trae Young or a Halliburton team is just going to inherently have a little bit of an advantage there that we have a different kind of advantage with Wemby in that we don't have to win field goal percent, and we're probably going to punt it in this mock, but that doesn't mean you have to actively seek out all of the worst field goal percent guys right now. And there's going to be a bunch of dudes later on the board that shoot up the board because we don't care as much. Someone like a Scoot that's barely getting drafted shores up assists in a certain way. Conley is someone late that shores up assists. We could go Chris Paul if we have enough points and goes that direction. I'm more inclined to, and again, I don't know that the options are all that great here, but we have an opportunity to be good at a lot of stuff. And so maybe someone like a Miles Turner isn't the most insane idea in the world. Because you get threes out of your center and a decent free throw percent. And I mean, the field goal is fine for Miles Turner. He's not a big impact guy there. But between he and Wembanyama, blocks are pretty well in hand. But I got to do 2 picks here. So that means I'm looking at other guys that might pick up maybe some more of the guard stuff. And there's a lot of them floating around at this point. So Miles Turner, who just got drafted at 46, is now off the board. And there goes Jared Allen. And now it's my turn. Emmanuel Quickly, I think, is an interesting choice here because he'll get some steals, he'll get some assists. Darius Garland is intriguing here if we want to continue to lean into the guard build and deal with the big man stuff a little bit later on. DeMar DeRozan is not a great fit because the field goal percent's a little bit better. Jimmy Butler, Franz, Derek White, all kind of the same general story. Siakam, if he had center eligibility, would be a more intriguing play here. Oh no, and I got put into autopick. So it's a good thing I had 2 guys in the queue. So it took Quickly and it took Garland. So I went hard into the guards. Now my team, I think, is pretty good in guard stats. That's a lot more threes and steals and assists. I now no longer have the advantage in some of the Wemby categories, though. The nice thing about Wembanyama is he set me up to basically put off dealing with his strengths for 4 or 5 rounds afterwards. That's basically the art of the backwards punt. Most people think you got to like take 2 of the exact same kind of player in the first and second round, but then you get really, really, really good at 4 things, and it becomes almost impossible for you to get good enough at the other stuff without kind of ruining the advantage you had in those first 4 things. Now, I think if I had my druthers back in the second, third round, I was hoping that maybe someone a little more point guardy got to me, or someone more like the right fit of big man got to me. It didn't happen. So I pivoted. And maybe I don't know. Maybe I did something dumb by going Devin Booker there because he's not the best punt field goal guy, but I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's bad for that format. And I don't know. I mean, like, if you're hoping for growth out of Cade, perhaps he makes more sense there, but whatever. It is what it is. That's the direction we went. Team's in good shape on steals, which is important if you're going to be going into this type of build. And now I got to make sure that I get the right center complement for Wembanyama. And that's probably coming up here now. Although every time it gets to my turn, I'm looking at the board and I'm just like, I want this guy. I want this guy. I want this guy. Cam Thomas is a very intriguing play for this kind of build. I doubt he gets back to me at 72, but who knows? Mark Williams actually isn't an awful fit for this. I know he's a positive in field goal percent, so you're kind of like, what am I doing here? Does this feel a little bit like a waste? But he's a decent foul shooting big man who does block some shots and get some rebounds. And suddenly now I'm not in terrible shape in those categories anymore. Not that I'm in terrible shape in blocks, because even, 5-6 picks deep, Wemby by himself is still kind of semi-carrying the team. And Paul George will get a couple here and there. Quickly, Booker and Garland, not much. Looking at some of the other names on the board, D'Lo is actually a really good fit for this type of build. And as far as centers go, like Isaiah Hartenstein is not a terrible one because he gets assists. Not going to score a ton, but we might have to go early on some of these guys. And a lot of these dudes that I'm looking at on the player list right now are going to be gone by the time it gets back to me. But again, as we're just scanning the board here, do I want any of these guys? Not that many of them. Vooch doesn't block many shots. He's not a bad fit from a free throw percent, making threes, getting rebounds kind of build. And if he makes it to 72, that's probably okay. Brandon Ingram's a no. Claxton's a hard no. If Julius Randle had center eligibility, he'd be intriguing. He doesn't, so nay. There goes Mark Williams, by the way, at 63, so that plan erupted. Devin Vassell would be a really nice fit if I didn't already have a wing, because he gets steals and threes and free throw percent and scoring. So that's all useful. And if we went farther down the board, like I mentioned, did D'Angelo Russell get... Yeah, he got drafted super early at 62. Some sort of lunacy going on here. Bradley Beal's a high field goal guy that, again, his strengths sort of get wasted. Kobe White would be a really interesting one because he'll get some assists. I mean, maybe that's the direction we go. We just go down the board a little bit. Drew Holiday after Vooch. So Vooch is gone. So the other option for like a big man that actually makes sense. Brook Lopez is not the worst idea in the world here either. If I want to go more blocks, he doesn't rebound though. That's a problem. He's got Brook Lopez's rebounds. Yeah, no, that's actually fairly accurate. If I go Lopez, then blocks is that extra category that I'm leaning into. And if I go Hartenstein, then I still leave myself open to potentially winning rebounds on some weeks as well. So it's now gotten to me, and all the guys that I wanted are still there. Not that there are many. Oh, that's not true. Cam Thomas did get taken. So Hartenstein and Kobe White are the guys I'm looking at for this particular team build. I don't see really anybody else that intrigues me other than an Anthony Simons if you wanted to go big scoring in threes at this point. I think I'd rather have Kobe White, maybe lower scoring, but more assists. So Kobe White. Oh, there we go. Kobe White and Isaiah Hartenstein. A little early on both, honestly. But when you're on a turn, you can't wait around because, you got 25 picks basically between each of your turns. 23, I get it, but I'm rounding. And so, again, I have to make sure that my team wins these guard stats, and Hartenstein actually helps in that regard. And he's now the first guy I've drafted that I don't think is going to put up 20 points or more. I guess maybe quickly he'll be at like 18, 19, and maybe Garland's in that range as well. But I think most of the guys I've got are good scorers. I don't have the mega crazy over-the-top scorer types on this team. I'll pull up the draft board for everybody watching so they can see it. But from a build standpoint, my team is in great shape. I'm probably awful in Roto. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Yahoo standings board, I'm right in the middle of the pack on the Roto front, and it's just going to keep falling. My field goal percent is bad, second from the bottom. My free throw is somehow only like fifth from the top, but I think one of these teams eventually is going to take a big man, and then that's not going to be a problem anymore. Threes are solid. Scoring, it has me in the mid-pack. I find that somewhat hard to believe, but okay, whatever. Rebounds should be mid-pack. Assists are good. Steals are good. Blocks are good. Turnovers are bad. So no massive surprises there. The Yahoo board thinks I need to get better at scoring, which is fine. I can still attack that because some of these late guys that score are going to have efficiency issues. I'll happily push myself even farther down the board in field goal percent. And, my rough assumption here is that like some of these teams that have free throw percent near mine are not as good in steals and assists and stuff like that. So I don't really know what the hell's going on there. We got a long way to go before it gets back to my next pick. So this is the perfect time to remind you guys once again, if you like what we've been doing here, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and please drop that 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. This is the Wemby mock, and we're going punt field goal. And some people are like, oh, I took Wemby, so should I punt guard stat? Should I just lean into the big? I don't think so. Because he gets 5 assists, and he gets a bunch of steals. Like, the only guard stat he isn't great at is free throw percent. But he's a big man. The big man category he's not good at is field goal percent. And that, I think, again, is how you should be looking at your punts. What is the off-kilter category for the guy you drafted? Did you draft a guard who's bad at any guard things? Because those first-round guys, the ones you draft in the first round, whatever position they play, that's going to be the biggest impact at that position. So, like, if you draft a guard, you want to get all your guard stats from that dude. And it doesn't always work out that way. But if you get into a situation where it doesn't, that's kind of how you know. Now the board's starting to come back towards me. My free throw rank seems to be improving as everybody else takes additional picks. So this thing has me dead last in scoring, which I find very hard to believe. Perhaps the projections on some of these guys, Yahoo doesn't think they're very good. I'm not buying it. Hartenstein's the only guy I have on my team that I think is not much of a scorer. Although I think they have Paul George not scoring very much, and I think Yahoo probably has that a little goofed. If you sort by last year's per game ranks, it still has me dead last. What the hell's going on around here? Yeah, I'm not sure I follow. Like, who the hell's this team? This team's got JV Vooch, Tobias Harris, Freddie Van Vliet. Like, how is this team ranked above me in scoring? Get out of here with this nonsense, Yahoo. All right, our turn's coming back around, and at this point, we've got our two centers. We don't have much in the way of wings, I guess. Paul George kind of being the only one, so that would be an okay thing to look at. Although I would again note that we can start to flip the board a little bit. Terry Rozier is intriguing as a lower field goal percent guy, and just keep leaning into that same thing. I don't really want Tyler Hero because he's always broken down. I don't want any of these centers near the top of the board. So I'll throw Rozier on the list. Trey Murphy, not that. I guess I'm not super into him at this particular price. Scoring still feels like kind of an attack point. I don't like Jalen Green, but again, for this build, Bogdan Bogdanovic is interesting for this build. I'm hoping that I could wait on Colin Sexton come looping back around, but maybe that's not going to be the case. I don't want RJ Barrett. Jalen Green is just not good. All right, it's coming up on me real quick now. There goes Hero. So I can go Rozier and I can go Bogdanovic. Both of those guys. Rozier is listed as a point guard, but Paul George could slide up and play a forward spot, and then Bogdan would take care of another one. Do I want to go someone like an OG Anunoby? Probably not. I think it's got to be scoring and guard stuff. I just got to keep leaning into it. So we'll go Bogdan Bogdanovic, and then the battle between Colin Sexton and Terry Rozier is in full swing right now. Sexton's going to do more for the team in field goal percent, but that's not really my thing. Honestly, Rozier at this juncture is totally fine. Or do I want more assists? It kind of feels like I've got enough medium to high assist guys that I should be okay. But then there's, Tyus Jones, guys like that that'll float around. All right, Terry Rozier it is. I ran the clock all the way down. Sorry, everybody that's waiting on me. The reason is because I'm doing a pod on it. And again, field goal percent is bad. Free throw is very good. Threes are good. Points are now great, but that's because I have a guy more than everybody else. Rebounds are bad, which is not surprising because I have Wemby and Hardenstein. Assists are good. Steals are very good. Blocks have slid back down to mid-pack. And turnovers are guessing pretty bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad still. So we'll see. I'm sure my rank will slide around as everybody makes moves through this. And again, it's, loose idea of what this stuff actually means. Did I need to take another big? I don't know. I mean, I think what I ended up doing here in a punt field goal team is get real good at the guard stuff wherever possible. So free throw percent, excellent. Threes, excellent. Points are pretty good. I think their projection engine probably is a little bit wonky, but whatever. Assists are good. Steals are good. Turnovers are not great. And then you try to peel off a big man stat or two. You're not going to get all of them in a punt field goal build. That's just, it's too hard. Field goal being one of them. Blocks and rebounds being the other ones. So do I have enough here to say, okay, my team is going to win most weeks, threes, hopefully points. Apparently this is questionable, although again, I'm not sure that I buy it, and I appear to be rising on the board as we go. Mid-pack? But it's close. Threes are still excellent. Rebounds are bad now. So it feels like rebounds should probably be one that goes the way of the dodo. Blocks are still middle of the board. Mostly because my guards don't do any shot blocking. I only have two centers. I don't really have any big wings. And maybe that's where this thing gets sort of pulled together. Do I gather a block back or two and make sure that I remain somewhat competitive there? We'll see. Assists, I'm starting to fall back a little bit there, but again, this is half the round has made their next pick. So this again is just adding. It's doing additive stuff, which is kind of stupid. My pick is coming up. I'm ill-prepared for it because I was talking about random crap, so I have no cue. Whoopsies. Where are all these guys? This is round 10 now, and I haven't even been paying attention who's been coming off the board. So this is a bad spot for my team. I just was not ready. Oh Lord. Dyson Daniels at low scoring. My turn is coming up, and I am not ready for it. Oh, there goes Scoot. That would have been an interesting pick for my team. He went earlier than expected. Porzingis off the board. Oh, right. Well, Bobby Portis at least would be rebounds and some scoring. So that's not bad if someone goes a different direction. Gafford is not going to score as much, but I'll get the rebounds and the blocks. But I think I just talked about how the rebounds are probably not the thing anymore. I am not prepared for this pick. So let it be known I spent way too much time talking about other crap. Gary Trent is also a possibility here. Dennis Schroeder is a possibility here to get more guard stuff. Or do I go big man, or do I wait on big man? Maybe I could go one more round without it. So let's go. Oh, no. It pushed me into auto pick again. That's what I get for running it down. Idiot, Dan. You stupid idiot. All right, well, I ended up with Gary Trent and Dennis Schroeder. I don't know that I wanted both those guys. I don't have a problem with Schroeder there. I think for my team build, he actually made a lot of sense. I'm back near the top of the board in assists and steals. Other teams are about to fall behind me in free throw percent. I think my free throw percent went down somehow. How did that happen? Doesn't matter. Projections are beyond idiotic. Anyway, assist, steals, great. Threes, quite solid with the team that I've put together. Points are apparently mid-pack. I don't know. That still feels wrong to me. I don't trust this board for everything. I mean, I've by getting thrown into auto pick and not really getting to think through what I wanted to do with that last bit, I have remained mid-pack in blocks, and maybe mid-pack is good enough. But that means that I have to win free throw percent and threes and points and assists and steals. Like those 5 have to go in my pocket because turnovers, actually, I've now sort of moved back into the middle of the pack in turnovers, which most teams are still going to beat me. But if I go low with the next one, then that becomes mid-pack. So I guess I didn't end up punting turnovers at the end of all of that. I think a few junctures here I probably could have leaned harder into particular build guys where maybe I was trying to be a little bit more well-rounded. Overall, I think this team's in okay shape, and you can't rely too much on those boards. Now, I honestly don't even remember who's left because I've spent so much time talking about it. Clarkson, probably somebody that I should have been eyeballing before for the scoring. I think I've probably waited too long to get a center of any kind. Kelly Olynyk's like the only one left, and he is well-rounded, so at least there's that. But I don't know. That's not super exciting. Normally, this is sort of flyer territory, but it's possible that I need to just take guys that are building on my team's strengths that perhaps need just the tiniest bit more strengthening. The thing I don't like about this team is that I should have taken that other block guy and probably just punt field goal percent and something else. I kind of am guilty of getting sucked into doing the guard build on Wemby instead of the guard build on a guard at the beginning. And I went too far the other direction. So a little bit of a lesson learned there. Because right now what Wemby's done for my team is he's taken blocks in particular, and he's taken a punt field goal team, and he's made that team borderline competitive in one big man stat. And that was a little bit stupid. So not my favorite result. I got caught up talking, and I got caught with my thing getting thrown into auto pick twice because I talked for too long. So that's fine. This is not the world's greatest mock draft that I've put together, it is what it is. You guys watched through it, and now you're, I'm sure, regretting it. But we have plenty of lessons to learn from it. So that's something we'll talk about here in just a couple of minutes when the mock is all wrapped up, which, again, I have stopped paying attention, and my turn is coming around, and now I have to make a pick, and once again, I'm not ready for it. I got to stop with this, man. I got to stop just yammering through my turn in the mock draft, and I forget who I wanted to throw into my queue. Clarkson's going to go in there because he's going to score for some amount of time. PJ Washington is an interesting one, if for no other reason than, like, there's a chance he's kind of not horrible this year. But, like, if you go all the way back to the top here, who do you want from this board? Not many dudes. Tari Eason. That's pretty much it. The rest of these guys are kind of clunky. Or I go McConnell, PJ. We'll go PJ and fill in that last power forward spot, even though I think I had the eligibility to deal with it anyway. So problems with this build. Problem with the build, again, is, so look, my free throw percent is very good. My threes are very good. My points actually ended up being pretty decent by the end of it all, because everybody else ended up taking their low-scoring guys at the very end, and I just kept drafting guys that were higher scoring. But this plan ruined my rebounding in a very special way. Rebounding's got no shot. Assists are outstanding. Steals are outstanding. Blocks ended up mid-pack, despite having Wemby, and then turnovers still ended up being bad. So at the end of it, again, I think the lesson here was, if we go back and we look at draft results and look at Team Dan, who's me, it was Wemby, Paul George, Devin Booker. I probably should have taken a center instead of maybe PG. Perhaps that was the problem there. Who was still available? And there's still a couple picks getting made. Keep the board where I want to look at it. JJJ would have been an interesting one. Cat would have been interesting, but not much in the way of blocks there. That would have shored up more the rebounding side. And then, I kept getting beat to the guys that I wanted to. That was really what ended up happening in this thing, is that, I wanted Miles Turner to shore up blocks, and he went 2 picks before me towards the end of the 4th round. I was looking at Chet Holmgren in the 2nd round, and he went 2 picks before me. So I think what probably the lesson there is, I got to get one more big man who scores, and in the relatively early rounds as well. Because from that point on, I just went with a lot of guys who score points. My whole team can score. And, I know the projections have me in the middle of the pack, but I'm willing to venture a guess that that's not right. Because, how many teams have Wemby, PG, Devin Booker, Quickly, Garland? That's the first 5 picks are all guys that can score. 7th rounder, 8th rounder, 9th rounder, 11th rounder, 12th rounder, all guys that score. Gary Trent will be meh, but what are we really doing here? If we think a team that this punt free throw team can score pretty well, but I don't know, looking at the first 5 picks on, say, the Luka team, Derek White, Miles Turner, Chet, that's 3 guys that don't really score. I mean, they score some. JJJ, Jared Allen on this team, projections don't make any sense for this crap. So don't buy all of that. Some of it is built into how many games I think guys are going to play also. I continue to maintain that the lessons we learned from this Wemby mock, and we'll do another one at some point where we go Wemby again and switch it up a little bit, is that you got to take one of the things that Wemby is excellent at and lock it in. Lock it in early. He's a very good passing big man, which allows you to build into that guard mold because his field goal percent is not that great. But he's so transcendent at blocks that you can kind of get lost in it. And so maybe, again, one of these situations being I got thrown into autopick, and so that blew that up, was, do I go Brooke Lopez instead of Isaiah Hartenstein and say, you know what, I know Wemby is really good at rebounding as well, but if I'm punting field goals, I'm probably not going to be great at rebounds and blocks, but I can probably be very good at least at one of them. It's one of the reasons that I prefer to build a well-rounded team, frankly. So, like with Wemby, it's really not that hard to build a well-rounded team. And at the beginning here, my team was well-rounded. And, instead of going quickly and Garland back-to-back, I would have gone with a big and a little in that chunk. I wouldn't have just kept going guard, scoring, assists, threes, all this stuff over and over again. And then I got caught with my pants down because I didn't, and this, everybody that's been watching these shows has been seeing, I'm trying to figure out when the centers are going. And being at the front end turn here, not many of the ones I was looking at made it to me. I had to go real early on Hartenstein because he wouldn't have made it back. And Mark Williams went before me there, so that screwed that one up. And I someone like a Jakob Poeltl actually didn't make as much sense in this particular build. Ivica Zubac wouldn't have been bad, but he's not a big shot blocker, so that would have been rebounds and field goal percent, which I was giving away. So Brook Lopez would have been kind of a last choice there for you get the blocks, and you don't get as many rebounds, but he'll knock down some more threes, and he'll probably score more than, I don't know, Poeltl. But at that point, after that, you're into centers that don't really do it for the team. And I screwed up. I was, my auto pick took me out of the Daniel Gafford play here. I ended up with Gary Trent and Dennis Schroeder. That should have been Schroeder and Daniel Gafford. So that would have been a nice bump in blocks. What is this? Yahoo has him projected for 148 blocks. It has Gary Trent projected for 14. So you can look, and again, you don't trust these rankings, but if you put another 140 blocks on my team, suddenly it's like the fourth place. It's much closer to the top. I was one reasonable center away from it. It's probably smarter to get that dude earlier. So we got close on this one, but we didn't get all the way there. We got the free throw part. We got the threes part down. We got the assists and the steals part down. We got 4 really, really, really good categories. We got points that we're going to win some of the time. We got blocks that we're going to win some of the time. We've got turnovers we're going to win some of the time. The problem is there'll be weeks where you don't, and we'll lose 5-4. The good news is we got really close to nailing this one. Real close. We were one shot blocker, basically, with okay percentages away from turning blocks from we'll win it a little bit of the time to win it most of the time, keeping that other stuff the same. So then you have 4, you win almost every time. 1, you win most of the time. 2, you win some of the time. And 2, you probably don't. Definitely not rebounds. Definitely not field goal percent. In addition, turnovers would be better for my team if I wasn't going all guards. But that's not one I think you can count on. Field goal or turnover punt tends to go kind of alongside a field goal punt. But again, one shot blocker away. Because there was Wemby, who, what do they have him projected at for shot blocking this year? 305? That's a lot. PG, they only have it 27. That's 10 less than last year. Booker, 27. Quickly, 4. Garland, 6. Hartenstein, 87. Kobe White, 17. Bogdan. Yeah, I mean, these numbers are all basically track. Yeah, I mean, I needed one more shot blocker. That was the goofing here. Paul George or Devin Booker probably should have been. Look at the scoring they have PG with this season. Real low. So that one was a bad one. That Paul George was the play that didn't make sense there. That should have been Devin Booker and JJJ or Freddie Van Vliet and someone who's lower scoring but does the guard stuff harder, or Cade, who's listed as scoring 300 points more than Paul George this coming year, but the other stuff is actually relatively similar between the two dudes. So that probably should have been either Cade and Booker or Cade and Cat, who's not a great shot blocker. Bam is another one that's not great, but just significantly more than these guys. That's a 50 bump. So that's the lesson learned. Or, I mean, do you count on Miles Turner getting back to you? Probably not. JJJ with 137 blocks. The scoring, they've got JJJ scoring more than Paul George in their projections this year. I don't think I'm on board with that one either. But he probably made more sense for this team. Okay, pretty good team. Imperfect. Pretty good team, imperfect. Lesson learned. That's your first Wemby build show. Maybe we'll do another one later this week to, we'll get it right thing. If at first you don't succeed, like, rate, and subscribe. That's my new lesson for children. Thanks for watching, everybody. Dan Basperis, Old Man Squad. Let's get the hell out of this joint. We're done for today. Tomorrow, double guest show. Adam Stock in the morning. We'll talk more about this punt strategy stuff. And in the afternoon, we're talking to the Menace Podmen. Steven Scott. I just call them my Pop-Tart pals, and then sometimes I forget their first names. We'll have the Menace Podmen on the show. That'll be in the afternoon. Tomorrow, Adam Stock in the morning. I've got all these ideas. I just don't know when to do them. Oh, well. Anyway, that's it for now. See you soon.